A new virus that has surfaced in an airport is announced via an emergency TV broadcast. After 2 months, the virus has become a global epidemic and spread throughout the world. It turns people into ferals, who are portrayed as angry animals that resemble zombies. Many citizens oppose the government's attempt to impose a quarantine and defend the rights of ferals, arguing that they are also persons. In an attempt to send residents home, the army must take over the streets and engage in combat, which only serves to worsen the situation. One afternoon, the signals for every TV channel go out. Their father, the pilot, calls Abigail and her brother and assures them that they would be safe with their mother, adding that he has a lot of work to do assisting people. The family flees the house as they hear a disturbance coming from upstairs. A feral leaps out of the car as they are ready to get inside, kills the mother by tackling her. Abigail has to watch as the wild assaults her brother as well, and she hides beneath the car right away. Abigail's mother turns into a savage, and her mother hears Abigail's sobs and follows her, only to be shot by Cassius. Abigail gives him a hug of gratitude after he saves her. Cassius forces Abigail to close her eyes before shooting her brother, who also begins to change. The planet is in a post-apocalyptic state 10 years later. Cities have been overrun by nature. Abigail, now a teenager, and Cassius are hunting in the wilderness. Abigail shoots a deer with a perfectly focused shot, demonstrating that Cassius has taught her effectively, even though he chastises her for hurrying and lacking patience. As night sets, Cassius checks that all the tripwires are in place before the two of them halt to camp. Cassius is startled awake a few hours by the sound of one of the tripwires. He discovers some fuzz lodged in the wire. He then hears some sounds close by, so he quickly calms the horses and pulls his revolver in time to shoot a feral that is approaching. Cassius wakes Abigail to depart, supposing this was a scout sent by the horde. The two continue their journey over the next few days. Cassius continues to train Abigail whenever they pause to allow the horse to rest. When they spot a car nearby one day, they immediately pull over and draw their weapons. They witness a man gunning down a wild as another animal comes up behind him. Abigail tries to assist him, and the bullet strikes him as well as the approaching feral. Cassius has to bring the car's beast down after Abigail looks through the car for supplies. Cassius uses a machete to kill the poor man and then takes his shoes. More automobiles arrive at that point, and a gang of survivors encircles them brandishing guns. When they examine the deceased man's body and discover that he was slain by a human, they believe the two robbed him. Cassius and Abigail strike and knock down the two closest individuals to seize their weapons when the leader threatens to kill them. Then, in an attempt to soothe them, Megan, a pregnant lady, exits an automobile. At that point, a savage horde surrounds the horses as they start to make some concerned noises. Everyone starts shooting right away, killing as many of them as they can. They nevertheless manage to approach because there are too many of them, forcing Cassius and Abigail to engage in hand-to-hand combat with their blades. But as the other survivors are solely proficient with firearms, the ferals quickly begin murdering them one by one. When a lady prepares a Molotov bomb and is attacked by a feral, it falls on a car and detonates, knocking Cassius back. After being bitten, one of the survivors tries to kill himself, but he runs out of guns and a particularly large feral grabs the leader and slowly beats him to death. A feral also tackles Megan's husband, David, but he is able to start it. Cassius kills a few more monsters before he joins the pair. A feral is on the car roof when they start off, so Cassius abruptly stops the vehicle to get it to drop. Before they can ultimately flee, Abigail takes advantage to gather their belongings. When he realizes they killed his girlfriend, the large wild roars in rage. Abigail discovers they have lost the majority of their ammunition. Megan tells that she is in her 35th week and that the baby will arrive soon. They were headed to a colony on the riverbank. The group is forced to continue walking after the automobile abruptly stops, and they learn the engine is dead. The group arrives at an abandoned town a little while later and decides to spend the night there. After making sure there are no ferals nearby, they search a building before setting up camp. Cassius pulls out a map and shows the couple the route to the colony after he has set up the tripwires outside. But he says the mob will return for retribution, so he declines to accompany them. In a private conversation with Cassius, Abigail insists that they assist the couple and that perhaps this colony will be different. Cassius continues to decline assistance. The crowd locates the wrecked vehicle in the middle of the night and proceeds to the town along the route. Cassius demonstrates to David that he always keeps a bullet in his pocket in case he gets bitten since the men are unable to sleep. After some time of talking and bonding, Cassius consents to assist them in getting to the colony. Abigail walks downstairs to check commotion she hears the following morning. Abigail is forced to drop her rifle as a Wild strikes, but she can still swiftly kill him with her machete. Abigail throws the second feral out of the building using the damaged window. She nearly tumbles as well, but Cassius catches her in time. The group has already left by the time the horde arrives at the building. A feral is killed when he trips over the wire and causes a tiny explosion. After a while, Abigail knows the location and recalls that her father owned a tiny plane at a nearby civil airport. Cassius wants to continue moving and believes that an airport would make it simple for the crowd to corner them. Cassius is forced to follow them when Abigail and the couple vote in favor of coming there. They discover an old structure and a car with a recently shot man after some time of walking. Since he believes they are not alone, Cassius instructs Abigail to look about the premises for supplies, but won't actually stop to rest. The family is hidden in one of the rooms, but Abigail only discovers some coffee. They utilize the wheelchair that Cassius finds in the car's trunk to carry Megan. In just a few seconds after the group departs, the horde discovers the building and slaughters the entire family. There are no flights in the area when they eventually arrive at the airport. When Abigail locates her father's hangar, she breaks up David and Cassius' argument on what to do next. Luckily, a plane is inside, and David knows enough about mechanics to fix it. Cassius and Abigail search the building while he is at work. After finding a photo of herself and her father on a floor, Abigail replaces it on the wall. Even though the plane isn't yet ready, the gang hurries to board it as the horde arrives. David physically moves the propeller while Cassius fires fire to slow the horde down. The crowd is approaching too closely. Fortunately, she quickly locates the correct button, and the aircraft starts to accelerate. The group then flees as the plane takes off. But they are only able to fly for a short while before the plane begins to malfunction and crash. Fortunately, it lands on its wheels, and only minor injuries are sustained by all. They decide to take a nap in the local train station after confirming that it is unoccupied. They will depart early in the morning after Cassius opens the map and finds that it will take them 2 days to get to the colony. The gang continues to move the following day. David feels a little queasy as they stroll in the intense sunlight, and Cassius spots blood on his thigh. In order to verify his hypothesis, pushing David up against a tree and examining his ankle. He can choose to tell everyone on his own terms, but Cassius threatens to shoot him if he doesn't tell them right away. The group discovers a house with lights on in the evening. A voice asks them what they want as they get closer. Abigail approaches the house and explains they need help. Norton asks them to leave all of their weapons in the chest outside and opens the door while holding them at gunpoint. Then, with a very kind and hospitable demeanor, he invites them inside. As Norton explains that he is an engineer and has constructed a few devices that supply hot water and electricity, Cassius is able to connect his laptop and view old photos, which show his wife was pregnant prior to the epidemic. Megan confesses to being afraid when he asks how she is doing because she hasn't felt the baby move since they got to this house. She forces Cassius to swear that he will safeguard her child in the event that something were to happen to her. Norton removes the odd knife that Cassius spots on a table. David notices the infection spreading as he dashes to the restroom, feeling worse by the moment. When he emerges, he finds that Norton, wearing a lab coat and wielding an odd contraption, has tampered with the drinks, rendering his pals comatose. He knows David is infected, so he turns on the machine, which emits a sound that makes David pass out in agony. The crowd has located the train station. When David awakens a few moments later, he finds that the entire group has been restrained in a basement. While collecting notes for his experiment, Norton discloses that he has his sick wife imprisoned in a cage. He releases her and uses his gadget to manipulate her into attacking the group. He fights back by breaking the ropes. David overwhelms her, and Norton must use his machine to prevent him from saving the others. Party flees upstairs and locks it behind them. Cassius gets their belongings back when Abigail takes Norton's car keys, and then he punches David. The women persuade him to wait even though he wants to shoot him right away. Megan finds out that her water has broken when they are driving to the car. Norton's wife growls at him as he watches the group drive off. The mob eventually locates them and begins pursuing them as the car enters the forest. The crew has located the colony since they can make out lights in the distance. They attempt to drive as quickly as they can, but a tree blocks the road, forcing them to walk the remaining distance. They start shooting as the swarm approaches, but David runs out of ammunition. He tells the others to leave while he buys them some time. Cases hands David his bullet before the three go. When they are sufficiently away, David lights up and engages in hand-to-hand combat with the ferals. He defeats some of them, but the large feral breaks his neck after surprising him from behind. Abigail must open fire to protect Cases as he carries Megan. Additionally, she begins shouting for assistance, drawing the attention of the soldiers at the colony gate, who promptly shoot all of the ferals that are pursuing the three. The rest of the horde instantly returns to the jungle upon seeing the bodies and the lights. Following the hero's entry into the colony, Megan is brought to the infirmary and attended to by a midwife. After speaking with the colony leader the following morning, Cases informs Abigail that they should depart immediately since people are unreliable. But Abigail ignores him because she's sick of fleeing. Cases then speaks with the midwife, who informs him that although the mother has only a few hours remaining, the baby is doing well. Cases finds out that the baby is a girl named Hope while he is visiting his friend. Before passing away, Megan offers him her family locket and reminds him of his pledge. Norton, meantime, finds every body when he gets to the woodland. He can also observe the colony while he is out and about. The crowd tries to attack him at that point, but he quickly uses his device to control them and declares that retaliation is in order. Cases is caring for Hope back in the colony as he considers his options. Abigail joins a small party in the evening and forms ties with the local kids. A few teenagers take advantage of the opportunity to enter a tunnel after alcohol is distributed and two guards nod out. Following them, Abigail finds an odd remote control, but Rodri stops her before she can touch it. The whole boat town is mined, he continues, and if the ferals are able to get inside, the remote will blow it up. By exploiting a ground-level hatch that leads to an abandoned dam, humans can avoid this explosion. Norton approaches a guard on a boat the following morning and requests his assistance. Once he is gone, a feral leaps into the water and enters the colony to murder the other guard as well. Norton can now launch an attack with the whole horde. A handful of armed individuals emerge to fight while survivors are being slain everywhere. After saving Rodri from a feral, Abigail gives the juvenile gang assignments. Those with guns must locate a higher spot to shoot, and Rodri must lead surviving to the dam while she searches for Cases. The midwife removes Hope from Cases so he can look for Abigail as panic spreads across the colony. The colony leader tries to flee as the ammunition for the guns is running low, but he is instantly killed by a wild. Cases stabs a beast to save two teens, while Abigail shoots a feral that nearly kills two young girls. After a while, Abigail and Cases come back together and begin battling the ferals together, utilizing both firearms and hand-to-hand combat. They attempt to join the evacuation when an opportunity presents itself, but Cases becomes sidetracked upon seeing Norton, and a feral tackles him to the ground. After Cases stabs the beast, Norton discovers him and begins kicking him while discussing how to make the world a safer place. Cases struggles to his feet and pulls Norton into a wall, repeatedly bashing the device until it breaks. The ferals then leap on Norton to murder him as Cases flees back to Abigail. When the survivors reach the dam after completing the tunnel, they ask Rodri to set off the explosives. But since Abigail hasn't left yet, he feels hesitant. When the large feral tries to attack Abigail in the colony, Cases strikes him with an oar. Abigail is terrified to discover that this is her father when she sees his bracelet after the thing collapses. She is frozen by the shock, and Cases must pull her to the hatch after waking her up. Just before Rodri grows weary of waiting and blows the place up, a new virus that has surfaced in an airport is announced in the tunnel. A man who is infected is later found among the surviving. A feral suddenly leaps out of nowhere and kills the man as Cases tries to soothe him. After that, it attacks Cases, starting a brawl. Until they hit the ground and the feral nearly bites Cases, they keep hitting each other. Abigail is patient this time and waits for the ideal opportunity to shoot, eliminating the beast without endangering her friend. As they watch the colony burn, the survivors are unsure of what to do. They can construct a new house in the dam, Abigail says, and Cases admits he took Norton's notepad containing the generator building instructions.